Hi everyone, welcome back to Boss Up with me, Yana. On today's episode, we're going to be continuing a conversation that I had on my Instagram. I'm just going to go into a bit more detail today, just in case someone missed that conversation. And I also just wanted to be on video, so you guys can just have this video to always reference on. So go ahead and get you your little snack and come on back. So on today's episode, I wanted to discuss renting versus buying a house. There's been a lot of conversations that I've had with people, and I feel like there's a bit of a misconception out there that you are better off buying a house or renting is not always the ideal option, and everybody has their own opinion. And today I want to give you mine using I'll say relatable examples. As usual, I can only advise you from my own experience, so please feel free please feel free to share your experiences in the comment section below. I am always happy to hear your guys' stories and your experiences. So let's get right to it. So I want to start off by highlighting a few pros and cons of owning a house versus renting. The first one being the one I hear very, very often. So pros of owning a house is that you are paying towards something you own. You are paying towards something that's yours. Whereas when you rent, obviously you're not. You might be paying towards someone else's mortgage actually. So I hear this one a lot, and I agree, honestly, it's true, but renting does have its own benefits, so I'll discuss further anyway. And then a pro for renting is that the maintenance is done by the landlord, whereas if you own a house, you have to do your own maintenance. And let me tell you, it's not cheap, and it's very, very challenging, especially if you are a first-time home buyer. You don't know much. When I tell you, you need to do a lot of research before you buy a house. You need to do a lot of research. You need to have a plumber on speed dial. You need to have a carpenter on speed dial. You just need a whole bunch of people to help you out if you aren't into the DIY type stuff like me. So yeah, the nice thing about renting is, like, if anything happens, you're calling your landlord, like, the pipe's on, like, you said, I'll do that or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to say to your landlord, like, silly Yana, I don't know. But when you own a house, that's entirely on you, right? And then a pro for owning a house is that you are free to make whatever home improvements you want to make. You want to draw walls, you want to knock down a wall, put something else. It's really entirely up to you what you want to do with your own property, right? Whereas if you are renting out, it's not entirely up to you. It's up to the lease, right? It's up to whatever you agreed with your landlord. Okay, and then a pro for renting a house is that it's cheaper, or should I say it can be cheaper. Whereas if you buy a house, it's a lot more expensive. The reason why I'm saying expensive is I just mean that it requires a lot more money from you, right? There's money for your deposit. You can get a house without a deposit. But if you want to keep your monthly installments as low as possible, you do need a deposit. So there's that. There is just a whole bunch of costs associated with buying a house. So that's what I mean by expensive, right? And a pro for renting a house is that it is an easy process. You locate a house, you talk to the landlord, you pay your security deposit, you pay your rent, and you get in the house. Boom. Home and night. Try buying a house. I'll use myself as an example. I started the process November 2019. I moved into my house July 2020. It is long. It's long. Mine took extra long because my stuff got delayed at deeds because of COVID. It took forever for me to get BPC to come and connect power for me, and also connecting water took a very long time. It took about 3 months each, and then deeds took even longer. So Buying a house is a lot of work, and it's long, and it's expensive. Okay, so today what I want us to discuss is the notion that buying a house is cheaper, or is easier, or it's to your benefit, or this thing of people saying, oh, you pay that much for rent, you could use that as a mortgage. That is not always the case, and that is the conversation that we had on my Instagram. And I'm gonna take there's a comment that I saved from there that I think we'll discuss later. Let me just start off by giving you my own opinion based on my experience, right? So scenario number one, when I just started working, I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, right? And my rent was initially 2.9 and it later was increased to 3.2. I lived there for 3 years. So in the 3 years that I lived there, it only increased by $300, which is not too bad, right? And I remember I had a friend of mine say, like, I'm renting a spot, why don't I just buy the apartment? And I said to him, no, that's generally not how it works. If I am to buy this apartment, I'm going to be paying a lot more as mortgage than what I'm paying as rent, right? So I'm assuming, do you know what, I almost said such as paribus, like, why am I here talking eco? Anyway, all things held constant, right? Holding everything the same. Why here? That means just basing it on the amount hella. Forget what deposit boing. I'm just talking about the amount I'm paying to my landlord versus the amount that I'll be paying to the bank. If I bought that apartment, I wouldn't be paying 2.9 to the bank. If the apartment is worth, let's say, 700,000, I would have been paying around 7,000 as mortgage. Do you see that? So in that specific scenario, renting is cheaper, right? But if I have a deposit and I pay a heavy deposit on it, I can reduce my mortgage to possibly whatever I want, depending on. I'm a bit discombobulated because my camera stopped recording. Where was I? Anyway, okay, I'll just take it from somewhere. I was saying, in the scenario that I gave, renting would have been the cheaper option than for me to try and buy an apartment. And also at the time, looking at my own finances, I had the 2.9 for rent, but I definitely did not have 7,000 to be able to pay mortgage, right? So given my circumstances, it was cheaper for me to rent, right? So I feel like when you're deciding whether it's cheaper to rent or to buy, it genuinely depends on your own circumstances. It also depends on what you want in life, right? It depends, right? So I'm gonna give another scenario. Let's say you want a house in, actually I think a friend of mine explained this very nicely on the Instagram story thing I did. So let's read that. Let's read that. So my friend says 7,500 gets you a 2-bed rental in a prime neighborhood where you are most probably closer to work, less petrol costs. 7.5 won't get you a mortgage in that area for a similar value proposition. This also depends on your access to financing. Working at a bank equals low interest rates. Having a scheme also adds to the affordability factor. Being a homeowner means you must replace things as wear and tear happens. A renter doesn't. Many factors to consider. She's absolutely right. This was possibly my favorite comment of the day because this is exactly it. So if you want to stay, let's say in Village, I think minimum in Village I've seen apartments worth like 7,000. People pay like 10, 12, 15,000 as rental. It's crazy. But anyway, so let's just stick to the lowest one. Let's say 7.5, right? So let's say you want to live in Village, you work in Fairgrounds. Chances are your rent would be around in a 7.5, right? So let's say you now want to buy a house in Village. You are looking at 2 million, 2.5 million. How much is that in mortgage? That's over 20K as mortgage. Do you see that? So in this scenario, you are better off renting than buying. You have 7.5, but you don't have 22,000 for the mortgage there. Do you see what I'm saying? So someone will argue, okay, take that 7.5 and pay it as mortgage for a house, let's say in phase 4 or G West. But I don't want to live in G West. I want to live in village. Do you see what I mean? That's what I meant. Sometimes it depends on what you want in life. What will be your goal at the time? Your goal will be to live in village where you'll be closer to work in fairgrounds. So going to buy a house in phase 4 or phase 2 instead is not going to fulfill what you want at that time, right? So in that moment, you're better off paying rent in village. See, that's what I mean. It really just depends on what you want in life. If your goal in life is to just own a house, or I want to own a house and I have 7.5, you can definitely find a house for that amount. Okay, Bona, Tulufelo, phase 2, phase 4, wherever, you can find it. And if you are strict on that 7.5, you can pay a deposit so you reduce your monthly payments to that 7.5. It's entirely up to you. Really, what I'm basically just saying is your life is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you want, it can happen. Okay, so another scenario, let's say you want to move. Let's say you want to move to another country. Nah, it won't make much sense to buy a house, to be honest. It won't make much sense to buy a house. You're probably better off just renting that 1 year and taking your money and going. If you're gonna rent a house, what if you decide you love wherever you're staying and you want to invest there and now your money's tied up here? So it really just depends. Some people will say, yeah, but I'd rather buy a house than I'll move to another country. There's just a lot of factors to consider, and I think when it boils down to it, I would say it's entirely up to you, your goals and what you want, right? In some instances like mine, my mortgage is cheaper than rent. So I've shared this with you guys. If you haven't checked out my video of how I managed to finance my house, you're welcome to watch that video. I'll link it in the description. Yeah, I'll link it in the description. You guys are welcome to go back and watch that video. But I shared with you guys that my mortgage is literally 4.5. 4.5 is how much I pay as mortgage, which is less than what most people pay for rent. Because I live in a 3-bedroom townhouse that I pay for 4.5. The way I was able to swing this was to pay a large deposit. That's how I was able to get that. So if you don't have money for a deposit and you want to live in this house, you are probably going to be paying maybe my 8,000 or so as your mortgage. So yeah, these are some of the factors to consider. And I've also shared that rental for this specific house I live in, my neighbor's renting out her house and she's renting it out for 6.5. I've done some home improvements, so I'm hoping to rent it out for around 7.5 when I finally decide to move out. 7.5 to 8,000 is what I'm hoping to get for it. And as of right now, let's just use my neighbor's rental as an example, right? My neighbor's rental is 6.5, and if I'm to rent out my house for 6.5, living in this house is costing me a little over, is it 2K? 2K. So I could be getting 2,000 every single month as passive income if I just move out of this house and go live somewhere else. You get it? So in a way, I'm actually losing money by living in my house right now. And in the economy that we're in right now, I am strongly considering moving out. I want to move back to town because just living here no longer makes sense. I'm losing money, and petrol coming here, I don't live in town. Petrol coming here I'm at like a full tank every week now. That is now expensive. It's extremely expensive. So these are some of the factors to consider. So before, when I moved in, I absolutely loved it here. I felt I couldn't get a 3-bedroom house for the same amount in town. So it made sense for me to live here. Now I'm looking at it a little bit like when I add the living costs and everything, now living here is starting to seem like it's a bit expensive. Or to me, it's equivalent to maybe living in village. Village will be closer to work and it will just make more sense for me to be there. So these are some of the things I'm considering when I'm like, maybe I should just move out and earn some passive income. So yeah, I just wanted to give you like a few different scenarios to play around with when deciding whether to rent, have a mortgage, get a house, whatever. Remember, you can always play around with your deposit. If you have that much deposit to pay, you can always play around with that to reduce your monthly mortgage payments. Whew, that was a mouthful. I hope you guys were able to kind of learn a thing or two today, and I would like to learn from you as well. So please comment below your different scenarios as well so I can learn a bit from you. Yeah, that's all I had for you guys today. So thank you so much for watching. I would love to do a career update because I've switched positions yet again. It's exciting. So if you guys want to see a career update, please do let me know. And then as far as our previous video, I have invited someone to come and have a chat with us about investments and stuff. So I'm hoping that will happen very, very soon. Yeah, I think those are all the updates I had for you today as well. So thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Mwah.